Hello everyone, my name is Shonda and welcome to my channel Under the Needle. Um, so I didn't notice I have a stain on my shirt. I haven't even been anywhere today. I've been to the front door to get an Amazon package and that's about it. So I don't even know how this happened. I don't know what this is from. I don't know. Anyway, so along with the caption, so I think I might be crazy, right? I think I'm crazy. And so there are two sew-alongs that I was looking forward to doing, right? One was called a snow-along, right? This is being run by Modern Handcraft for their snowflake pattern, right? Where's my snowflake pattern? So I found out about this snow-along, right? For this pattern, I need to change the ink in my printer desperately. So, and plus it's not the best printer either. So this pattern here, I really wanted to do this pattern. You know, it's winter time. Why not, right? So this is the schedule. We start October 25th. And we kind of come out the gate sewing on this one, right? So week one, we're putting together blocks. Okay, so you for this particular sew along / snow along, you have to have everything pre-cut and ready to go because effective Monday the 25th, we are sewing, right? So I'm like, okay, cool, sounds good. I finally decided what fabric I'm gonna do. I am going to be using these layer cakes, this layer cake here. It's kind of wintry. I have two of them. So it's basically just a blue and white, different blue and white prints. They're not particularly Christmassy, but they're a bit wintry, right? So I decided I'm going to use this layer cake because I bought this kit. Well, I bought this as a kit. I bought this from back when there still was a blueprint. So I probably bought this maybe 3 years ago. Okay. But I never did anything with it. I never put the quilt together, obviously, right? And so this particular pattern, this snow along pattern, it doesn't it's not layer cake friendly. It's not written for layer cakes, okay? It's written for yardage and fat quarter, right? And but I'm like, hey, I'd kind of like to make this a little Christmassy, right? Being that it's a snowflake. And, you know, I think that would be fun to do it Christmassy. But I don't have a lot of Christmas fabric, right? Because I don't do a lot of Christmas stuff. So I'm like, how can I use this layer cake? So I go and I break down the pattern and I look at the number of squares that are needed. And I'm like, I can exactly cut these squares from 2 layer cakes. So if I have 2 layer cakes, I can cut out this whole quilt. Yes, I'm going to have some waste, okay, because it's not designed for a layer cake. I'm going to have a nice little section of layer cake going to waste. About, I don't know, 3 inches of layer cake going to waste on every single layer cake. So that's times 84. But at least I'm using the fabric as opposed to it sitting around. So I'm like, okay, great. So I need to, within the next 7 days, get this starched, pressed, and cut and ready to go for Monday. Cool. Then also, somebody that I follow, one of the quilters that I follow, Gudrun Erla, she is having a sew-along as well. Her sew-alongs are a little different. They tend to be one-day sew-alongs, and she generally will design a pattern that can be completed in a day. So she did reveal the pattern. The pattern is called Phoenix, right? And this is the pattern. It looks horrible here because my printer, again, I need to change the ink, but I just haven't. So this is the pattern. and it's on her website. It's called Phoenix. And this pattern uses fat quarters. You need 10 light fat quarters and 10 dark fat quarters. Awesome. Now, what do I want to use? So I'm all over my sewing room just trying to look and see if there's a fat quarter bundle that's comparable, that's going to fit, that's going to work. And I'm like, and I pulled several different things. Like the first thing I thought of was this Anne of Green Gables one, right? Because I remembered it being purple and green. I did not remember how many super lights there were, because you could also do this quilt instead of using lights and darks. You could just use two contrasting colors of different prints. So I'm thinking, okay, if this is half purple and half green, then I can kind of, if I've got 10 greens and 10 purples, then I can use the greens as my lights and the purples as my darks. And I'm thinking that would be super pretty. But the way this bundle breaks down, it doesn't break down like that. And I would have to pull in different fabric from my stash. And I didn't really want to do that. Sometimes I don't mind, but depending on the size of the pieces, to me, sometimes it can be more obvious if something doesn't match quite right. And one of the things that she did tell us is that there are larger pieces in this quilt. So, so I didn't want to, I kind of wanted to keep everything in the same collection. And so I went through my batiks. The only thing I did not do is hand pull batiks. So I do have a collection of batiks that are not in a bundle, but I did not go to those and pull those out. I didn't do that because I don't know. I just didn't. I didn't really think of it right away. What I ended up thinking, I turned around and I looked at my bundles, and then I saw a fat quarter bundle that I've had for a couple years now. And this is the Bed of Roses by Aditya Sitar for Laundry Basket Fabrics. Now, one of the things that Gudrun did indicate, she said, hey, you could use fat eighths or fat quarters, but if you use fat eighths, of course, you need double. So I'm like, this might be a nice, pretty, more low volume quilt, because this particular bundle doesn't have a lot of darks. It's lights and mediums. And there's like only a couple of darks. So I pulled the bundle out, and I decided to pick these 10 lights, right? I don't know if it's really, I just thought this was a super pretty line. So I decided to use these 10 lights. And so the lights were, kind of easy to choose because there weren't that many of them, right? There's a lot of mediums. So I had to go here because I felt like this was still a light, even though it wasn't as light as the other lights. So these are the 10 lights. So these were the lightest lights in that bundle. And this bundle has 32 pieces. That's why I was like, okay, this is perfect because I get to use up this bundle, because there's not a whole lot of projects where you could potentially be able to use that many and where you don't need darks, right? And I've not made a lower volume quilt. I've always made quilts that had lights, mediums, and darks. So this would be my first time doing something like this. But I'm like, yeah, this is cool. I think this will work. And then I took the other prints and and I'm calling these my darks, right? Because even though they're pretty medium, there is some contrast with the lights. So I've decided to do this. And what I did was I took 20 of these medium fat quarters. And what I'm going to do is, because she did say, hey, you can use fat quarters, 10 fat quarters or 20 fat eighths. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use 20 print fat quarters, 20 of my dark fat quarters, and then I'm going to just use 10 for my lights. So my lights will be duplicated more than my darks, of course. So, and then I end up having 2 that I'm not using. So that's what I've decided to do. I think it's going to be fun. I do have to get all of this fabric pressed this week. She is releasing the cutting instructions early. Normally she doesn't give the cutting instructions until like the day before, but she is rolling them out a little early this year. or with this sew along and giving them to us early so we can go ahead and get started and get things cut. And the reason she does that is because there's always going to be somebody. If she gives you the full pattern up front and she specifically says, hey, we're doing this together. So if you do it early, that's okay. Just don't post it. Keep it to yourself until we all get to sew together. Well, there's always that one person that can't do that. There's always that one person that's going to post it anyway, right? Because they're not going to be able to help themselves because they're going to want the hearts and the likes and the attention for being the first one to finish. So that's why she releases the pattern piecemeal, right? So for now, all we get is the fabric requirements with some information on color selection, right? And then a week before, she'll give us the actual cutting instructions and a video demo of how to get the best out of the fabric. And then we all sew together. No, on Friday, the Friday before the sew along, she gives everybody the full pattern. So you'll have that full pattern the night before, and then we all start in the morning sewing together. So if you want to get started, you can. Again, just don't post it. So I'm doing that, and that's on November 6th. I'm like, great, cool. But I was on the interwebs, as I often am, and I saw this incredible quilt. And and she's doing a sew along. And I was like, oh no. I think I'm going to be tempted here. I think I have a problem. I think I'm going to end up doing another sew along. So that's 3 sew alongs starting within a 2-week period. One is so it's actually starting tomorrow. This new one, it's starting tomorrow. So literally, within 3 weeks or 2, is it 3 weeks? 3 weeks. So I'll be kind of simultaneously doing, I don't know. I don't even know anymore. So I'm just going to try to follow the schedule. So the last sew along, and this is why I say I'm crazy, because I don't know why I'm doing a 3rd sew along. Why? Like, if you could see what I have to do, it's crazy. Anyway, so this is called the Deco Quilt Along, and this is the pattern. This is what it looks like. Let's see. Do I have my actual pattern? Yeah, because there's different colorways here, and there were some quilt shops that put together some kits, and I was going to get a kit, but trying to find the right kit for the right price, and then with the shipping, the timing of the shipping, I was going to be behind, and with what I've got going on, I did not want to start this late. So I just wanted to show you the actual pattern so you could see another picture of this quilt. So this is the quilt. It's called Deco by Lo and Behold Stitchery. And so I've decided to do this quilt too. So I'm actually pretty excited about this one. This one's a bit more ambitious. The other 2 sew-alongs really weren't that big a deal because the one with Gudrun, the Phoenix quilt, big pieces, just rectangles, nothing small to work with. So and big block quilts tend to be a lot more forgiving for when you're putting your units together. So I'm like, okay, not a bad deal. And the same thing with the snowflake quilt. I mean, you literally just make some half square triangles and then the rest of it is just squares. So it's literally, and then your half square triangles and then squares once you put them together. So you literally just are putting squares together. That's it. There's nothing else. It's no difficult stuff. Literally just putting squares together. So not a big deal. But this quilt is pretty ambitious. It's pretty ambitious. It's gorgeous. but it's ambitious. Oh, it's also backwards. So I want to show you guys my fabric pole and what I've decided to do for this quilt. So I've already cut it out because it starts tomorrow. I cut it out without realizing or without reading, right? I don't know how this is even supposed to go because in the sew along plan, week 1 is planning. I didn't catch that part. I'm like, it's starting tomorrow. I have to get this cut out. Oops. So week 1, we're just supposed to be planning. And then week 2, we're supposed to be cutting. And then week 3, we finally put some blocks together. So I might start a little early so I can do things a little more slowly because I'll have other sew-alongs that I'll be prepping for and getting ready for. I have to get all of the fabric. That's 30 fat quarters that I have to get pressed and, pressed and starched and ready to cut. And then there's that's a couple hours of ironing just for that. And then there's, I've got to iron all of these. I've got to iron, starch and iron 84 daggone layer cake squares and then get those cut out. And then I got to get the background cut for the the snowflake quilt. So I just decided to go ahead and cut this quilt out. So this is everything kind of all cut out. I've got my 5 different colors and my background. I decided to go with a gray background, which is new for me. I've never done that before. So, so I did kind of like a little test piece here where I just kind of put together the colors and the background just to make sure I was going to like how this flows. Because as you can see, there's quite a bit of background in here. Like this quilt literally has, let's see, it's way more background than it is, color. Yeah, 3 1/4 yards of background and I can't do this math. Like 2.5 yards of print. Now, and most of the ones that I saw, they used a lot of solids. I'm not using any solids, so I have no idea how this quilt is going to look at all. Like at all. I've never used, I've used a black background before, and of course I've used whites and creams. And I've used like a lighter gray, but I've never used like a dark gray. So I guess I wanted to do the dark gray because I look at it as being a bit more modern than say white. So I thought that would be, a super modern way to go. And then I found these awesome art gallery fabrics in my stash that coordinated so well together. And so I'm like, yeah, I think this could be great. I think this could be great. I'm going to do this. So I've got this cut out early. As I find out, I was early, but at least it's done. And so now I think it's 7 o'clock. I have not done a single chore today, guys. I've also not, that's not true. I was going to say I haven't sewn a single stitch, but that's a lie because I did do this just to see if I was going to like these colors on this background. And I actually really do. So I did sew that. So it's not that I didn't sew it all. I do have enough background left to do the binding if I choose to do that. I just don't know yet if that's what I want to do. I think I might want to end up framing this in some type of burgundy color, maybe instead, I don't know yet. I've never done a quilt like this. So sometimes I can immediately tell, okay, the binding is going to be this and that's that. And I know. I don't know that with this quilt. So I want to see it all together and all done, and then make a decision as to what color binding I want to use. So that's what I've got going on. What I've got that that's what I've decided to that's how I've decided to spend my time. So there's still a quilt that I'm working on that I really need to get finished and do a review on the pattern. But I've basically spent my entire weekend uh, fabric shopping in my own stash and testing fabrics in my stash for these projects because I don't know. And then of course the cutting. I did the cutting. Um, I've not done a single chore. When I say not a single chore today. Not nothing. I haven't even folded a load of laundry today. So, um, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend the next hour working on this layer cake here. Um, I'm not going to really spend a whole lot of time ironing these. The quilt that I'm working on now, it was also a layer cake quilt. Um, and I spent a lot of time ironing it. But in that case, I'm really glad that I did. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to test this fabric to see how much it shrinks. Because fabric that shrinks a lot, you got to be a bit more careful of, right? You have to make sure you pre-shrink it. So I'm hoping that it doesn't shrink a lot. Because if it does, then I'm going to have to starch everything. Because if I don't starch it, then it's gonna be like, what's the word I'm looking for? It's gonna be shrinking as I'm sewing. And I don't want that. I don't want my fabric to be shrinking as I'm sewing it. Um, yeah. The project that I'm working on now, it uses a Michael Miller fabric, and I swear it shrunk like a quarter or 3/8 of an inch on one side of each layer cake. And there is one square that I did not realize that it was actually a little too small, or I might have just put the paper on wrong. I'm not sure, but I'll have to finesse that piece when I put the blocks together. Anyway, so that's why I'm crazy, because I've got a sew along starting tomorrow, a sew along starting on the 25th, and then an all day sew along on the 6th. Yeah, but it's going to be fun. Good times, good times, good times, good times. I guess maybe I should make sure there's actually 42 in here, because this particular layer cake came with a panel, which was like so unusual. I hadn't seen that before. So I'm wondering if there's less squares because it came with the panel. It's a pretty panel though. It's a wreath. I mean, you could technically back this and bind it and use them as wall hangings in your home. I have a lot of blue in my living room. It would actually match really well. I just don't see me having time to do that given the other projects that I'm working on. And if I don't have enough layer cake, I can always cut this up. It's blue. And I mean, I've got coordinating yardage anyway, because one of the things I miss about Blueprint was their fabric was ridiculously cheap. They were always having a sale, 60, 70% off. It was amazing. I built up my stash quite a bit from that website, and their fabric was top notch. Like it was, to me, there was absolutely no difference from Riley Blake or Moda, and then Boundless, which was the brand that was carried by Blueprint and Craftsy. Anyway, so I digress. So that's what I've got going on. One thing I do want to ask you guys if you can help me with this, right? So when I put this snowflake quilt together, right, and I'm using this fabric, I'm trying to decide what I want to do for the snowflake. What color do I want to make the snowflake? I don't know. Because at first it was going to be white. Like it was like hands down, it was going to be white. But then I started thinking, what about navy? What if instead of doing white, what if I do the blue instead? Like, how would that be? What would that look like? And I still haven't decided that part yet. The white does take, I think the fabric requirements say it takes 1.5 yards for the snowflake. I do have this fabric here if I wanted my snowflake, because my snowflake is not going to be scrappy. The area around the snowflake is going to be scrappy with the layer cake, but the actual snowflake is going to be one print. And so now I'm like, well, do I want to do a navy? Or do I want to do a white? Or can I get even though this is only 1 yard and it says I need 1.5 yards, is there enough here to make it? I don't know. Because this print is also in the layer cake, right? So if I pull these squares out of the layer cake and then use the panel to replace those squares, like that might work maybe. I don't know. But now I don't know. Now I don't know if I want to do a white snowflake or a darker one to like where the snowflake stands out. So now I don't know if I want, I don't know. Now I have something else I have to figure out. But I can decide that later. I think I can decide that later. Actually, no, because the half square triangles have to be done. I don't know. I think I'll start cutting up the layer cake and then I will make a decision. I will place some of the colors near each other. I will place the navy and see what I like better. And maybe I'll take, since I have a lot of waste for the layer cake, maybe I'll take that layer cake waste and sew a block together with navy versus white and try to see what I'm going to like better. I'll do that and see how that goes. I don't know. But just wanted to give you guys an update. Let you know how certifiably nuts I am. I was supposed to wash my hair today. I didn't do that either. I spent my entire day in this room and literally only came out to, I think I used the bathroom once. I hope that's not TMI. I made a cup of coffee. You know, I went to the door a couple of times, but literally from about 10:30, no, about 11. So about 8 hours I've been in here just petting fabric and cutting. So that was my Sunday. I hope your Sunday was equally productive as mine. I felt like I had a productive Sunday, even though none of it involved housework. And I hope that yours was equally productive. If you want to join me in any of these quilt-alongs, let me know. If you want me to film myself in these quilt-alongs, let me know. I really don't know what you guys want to see. I always feel like I'm flying blind here. But yeah, if there's anything you want to see, if there's anything you want me to demo, just let me know. I am working on a flying geese demo, but it has been a lot to put together. So I'm still working on that, but that is to come. And definitely want to get that out within the next few weeks or so. But yeah, that's all I have today, and I will see you next video. Like, comment, subscribe, and let me know what you want to see.